Hi there, this is Applied Psychology BTEC, and this is the very last of the C3 topics, psychological methods used to improve adherence. So to help people keep taking their course of medication. So 3 ways that we can do that. Firstly, financial incentives. If someone is promised some money if they keep going to the end of a course, then that can be a powerful positive reinforcer. It's a reward at the end, and so it reinforces the behaviour. Cognitive behavioural therapy is another psychological method that we can use to help people keep taking their medication. You can address stuff like distorted thoughts about a treatment, such as I will definitely experience these side effects if I have this treatment, or I don't want to take this treatment because it might cause sleep problems or whatever. So you can work on thought processes that are, if they're doing perhaps a distorted cost-benefit analysis, work on making that more rational and logical. And then that's the cognitive part. In the behavioural part of CBT, you'd be doing stuff like improving organisation, keeping appointments, like time management, that sort of thing, to help people manage to stick to the appointments that they need to go to and so on. And the last thing that you can do is use technology for reminders. So pill boxes aren't technology, but if there's like automated texts that can be sent out to remind people they have an appointment, that can really help. Or people can set reminders on their phone to remind them to take medication, and so those sorts of things can really help people to take medication if they're struggling, if it's a memory thing, particularly if they're struggling to do it for that reason. Right, let's evaluate that then. So we've got research support from Volpp, which is the key study. We'll talk about that in a moment. Basically, people quit smoking much more when there was a cash incentive to do so. So they managed to keep going to the end of the quitting course. So that supports the idea of financial incentives being helpful. And then Matani reviewed lots of studies into reminder packages and found that they increased adherence. So again, evidence to support the idea that these reminder things actually work. However, the problem with reminder services is that actually if you have a chronic condition, that means a condition that's really long lasting, then you can start ignoring the texts or reminders. You may be able to relate to this on your phone. If you get a reminder for something that you get like every day for a long time, you do just sort of start swiping it off, don't you, without really thinking about it. And so that can be a problem, is that people sort of just tune it out if it's a regular reminder. So it's not perfect for everything. Right, let's look at the key study then. This is a study which looked at smoking cessation, which means stopping smoking. So they're looking at can we get people to quit smoking and to adhere to a course of that helps them quit, and to abstain from smoking. That's really the questions. So if you're confused about any of those keywords, that's your definitions. So let's have a look at what happened in this study. So first of all, what they did was this was in a workplace. They had 2 groups. They had a group that just received information about quitting programs, and they had another group that received the information plus financial incentives. So both groups get the same information about programs that will help them to quit smoking. And what happens is it's 12 months long, and if they quit, they're followed for an extra 6 months to check if they've stayed off smoking in that extra 6 months. And here's the incentives. So just for completing the program, then they get $100. If they quit after completing the program, so if they stop smoking, they get $250 on top of that. And then if they manage to keep it up for another 6 months after that, then they get another $400. So it's quite a reasonably significant financial incentive. And it's all measured by interviews. So they would be ringing the people up saying, "Are you still smoking?" if anyone said, no, I've quit, then what they would do is give them a biochemical test to check that they actually had quit. So this was, because obviously it's tempting for people to say, oh yes, I've quit, can I have $250 please? So they were given a biochemical test to actually confirm that they had quit, because it would show if they had smoked or not. So it was confirmed in that way. And in terms of the findings, you can see this table at the bottom here. I've put it out because there's a big list, I think, in your booklet which had all of these figures in. So I put it in a table so it's perhaps easier for you to see the difference. In the group here with the financial incentive, you can see all the figures are higher, and quite significantly higher here, the percentage of people that managed to do these things. So if we work down these, smoking cessation 9 to 12 months after enrolment, that means people who have stopped smoking at that point. Equally, the next paragraph down, that's people who've stopped smoking a year and a half after enrolling on the course, the quitting course. Third point down, enrolment in a smoking cessation program, so in the program that will help them to quit. So much higher in the group with financial incentives than the group that were just given information. So many more people also completed the course, and then smoking cessation within first 6 months. So you can see in every single category you've got quite a significantly higher percentage of people in the financial incentive group who've achieved those things compared to the information group. So it's quite compelling evidence, really, for the idea that financial incentives do actually help people to adhere to treatment, to adhere to, in this case, they're adhering to quitting. The thing that they're trying to do is quit smoking, which creates a funny sort of double negative, doesn't it? But they're sticking to their course of treatment or whatever. Well, it's not a course of treatment, is it? But they're sticking to that behaviour. Remember, we're talking about maintenance of behaviour change. So in this case, we're treating an addiction and they're sticking to what they've learnt to do. So it's adherence to that, to the smoking cessation. Right, let's look at evaluation of this study. So in terms of strengths, practical applications, you guessed it, it's really helpful to know that those are the practical applications. That is one way that you can reduce adherence. Well, that you can increase adherence, because we're improving people's health, and it's really helpful in the real world. It reduces the burden on the NHS and so on if people are stopping smoking, so that's really good as well. You've got a really big sample in this study, so it is likely that you'd be able to generalise it to lots of different people. Also, we've got objective measures, so it's not just asking people about it. They've been scientific, they've backed it up with the actual biochemical test to be sure that that's really what's happening. In terms of weaknesses, there's a slight question here as to people may find out that there's nearly £1,000 on offer and take up smoking in order to quit smoking and get the reward. It's a possibility, and in that case actually what we've done for those people is worsened their health rather than improving anyone's health. The other question is, once you've got your reward after the extra 6 months, once you've got that $400, will you start again? Because then there's no incentive, is there, to keep going? And, we don't know. I don't think they were followed up further to find out how many went back to smoking in the longer term. But, 18 months is a reasonable time without smoking, but it's not forever. So it's not out of the question that many of them could have gone back to smoking. And one problem really is that it's unrepresentative because they're all from the same area, the same company in the US. So we don't know that would be representative of other sorts of people in other areas or other cultures and so on. So there you go. That was psychological methods.